brother.
All right.
Somewhere in the middle of the two extremes lies a world of open discourse. Probing the depths of the in-between. Welcome to Gray Matters Radio with your host, Michael Devine.
Welcome, everybody, to another live episode of Gray Matters. So, welcome to Gray Matters Radio, the show that operates somewhere in the world of the in-between. What is this in-between that you ask? Everyone's always asking about it. Well, unless you've been sleeping under a rock for your whole life, you know that we have these two things. They're called political parties, and this show lives, well, in a gray area in between both of them. I know it's a really crazy idea, but honestly, it's really not that crazy for me. I know, but you know, I'm kind of colorblind, so I really couldn't identify a political party even if I wanted to. So I figured, why not drag more people into the gray with me? So I'm actually not alone. I am Michael Devine, your host, your tour guide of the gray. And what actually qualified me to be your guide on this journey, you ask? I'm a counselor. I'm a counselor with a conscience. I saw the world going down the toilet from my office chair, and I just knew I had to do something about it. So I've been tasked with saving this world, one person at a time, one family at a time. The man who just saw it all going, and I just had to do something about it, and I got to bring my brand of therapy to the world. Now, joining me on this journey, as always, is the everyman, Dominic Busilla, a man so preoccupied with the world of the in-between that he literally almost blew himself up trying to find it. That's dedication. So, everyone pack your bags, grab a drink, and join us in the gray. Good evening. Dominic, how you doing tonight, man? Doing good, doing good. Another live show, another installment, and I'm actually really excited about this one. But you gotta keep me in line. You gotta promise, we are still on the air, and you know, and as always, you're gonna reel me in. You're gonna be like, Mike, you're going off the reservation. You're talking too much. That's why I need you, the everyman. That seems to be a recurring piece of feedback. Seems like everyone is telling me that. But let's dive in here. So this is why I was so excited about doing this show. We got a great guest tonight. Ron the Opinionated Veteran is going to be on here in a few seconds, and I love this show because this is the topic of tonight is literally the reason why I'm doing the radio. You know, there's a lot of things that I was always a big political guy, Dom. And me and we've had a lot of conversations about it. And I started getting really frustrated with seeing the negative effects that the current political climate was having. It started really, I think, during the Obama administration, but maybe like the second one especially. The rhetoric, the media, it just started getting crazy. And not only that, not just the vitriol, the dumb stuff, but just even how they got us to think. I mean, my job is to teach people to think rationally, right? I mean, rational thought is a good thing, isn't it, Dom? I mean, I think so, isn't it? I mean, I guess we have to define rational thinking. I guess one man's rationality, another man's insanity, vice versa. But no, that's very true. That is very true. And so, here's the thing. You know, what I really wanted to kind of, do with this show, what I really wanted to understand is that what's going on and give examples of it, something that resonates with every single one of us. Okay. So now, Dom, you on Facebook, you have Facebook, don't you? You have this thing called Facebook, correct? Really?
And you run into those people sometimes, right?
We do run into these people sometimes, and
But
so,
I feel like most people do. You just, I don't know. I feel like you just kind of feel like you have to almost.
and so what I did, because I didn't know if people would believe me, because I wanted to set a basis kind of here for, once again, why are we doing this show, and just have an example. So what I did, I went through Facebook. I also went through, the comment section of some websites, and I know that was probably Not very smart on my end, but I knew I needed to do it kind of anyway. So let's dive in a little bit. Now, so what I did a little, this is our little segment. We bring it into the gray. We bring what we see and like have a good conversation about it. So when I broke it up into, well, different categories. So the first category I brought it into, which was I find very troubling, what I call the doubt everything but believe everything from here kind of person. So now, these are, now folks, I'm not making this crap up. These are actual posts that people basically had, all right? So first one. So I'm going to try to do it like we did last time, try to get some good drama into it, all right?
There we go.
So this was the intention when this term was created. Don't fall into this trap. The surface is only the beginning. There's always more. The critical thinking trap. How the conspiracy label undermines the truth. What the heck does that even mean? I'm perplexed here. I don't even know. But it sounds kind of poignant, doesn't it?
Kind of sounds like some misdirection starting to happen.
Yeah. So, all right, but let's go a little further into it, all right?
Okay.
So there's another
okay.
one. So now this was interesting, and I know Ron's listening, and I can't wait to bring him in. So actually, I almost want to bring him in now, but I want him to hear this and make him worked up before we actually bring him in. So this is an interesting one, all right?
Go for it.
I think we just bring him in just for a moment right now. Ron, how's
now,
it going,
Ron, are you listening? Now, Ron, if your head starts to explode, I want you to tell me, okay?
I certainly will.
Okay, so now it's like, I'm going to have to do a grand opening for you, but like just, if you feel like you're going to explode over there, just like, do something, all right? So, all right. So now this comment was in response to Fox News joining the Jim Acosta, the whole debacle, okay? So listen to this, all right. So
this will be good.
So this is good. Sorry, now mind you. So Fox went along with this one, so that's why I picked this one. This is all right. So you're surprised Fox joined in a lawsuit with CNN against the White House? This is where it goes into their data. 90% of the media is owned by 6 corporations. The last 10% are owned by NGOs, non-governmental organizations, which is usually nonprofit funded by the government sources used to parrot government propaganda. Ooh. People like George Soros, Snopes, PolitiFact, big players, are good examples that most seem to know. The game doesn't work if all the media outlets parrot the same message. They have one company that pretends to be on the other side, or it doesn't work. They're all on the same side. They can't keep you distracted and divided and fight for ratings with the same exact message every day. Hashtag the game. I challenge you to watch the news this morning. Watch the first 5 stories. I bet you can tell you how you will feel. This is how you know I literally took it. It doesn't even make any sense. You will feel one of 3 ways: angry, scared, or sad. There is purpose behind all they do. Fear and anger are the weapons of choice. Those 2 emotions always get the reaction. Hashtag the game.
Ooh, how many explanation points was that one?
No, there was one. I didn't. So usually, so Ron, if you listened last week, we kind of came up when there's 2 and 3 explanation points, but there was only 1 on this one. So it's a different person, right?
I think
so. You're being reserved today, is what I'm hearing.
I am. Well, it's Monday. It's a live show, so we got to reel it
That's
in.
Right.
I'm not trying to mess up. I mean, everyone's probably eating dinner right now, so I'm not trying to screw anything.
No, I hear you.
So all right, so that was what I call the doubt everything but believe everything from here. And that's where I start picking up on, okay, people, even when they don't trust what you can see, it's kind of dangerous, right? So let's go to the next one, all right? How do they think this is okay? Or I just reposted it and it didn't come up, and I didn't come up with it, so it's okay that somehow, it's okay, basically. It's basically, this category is almost like the, okay, it's offensive, but I didn't come up with it, so I'm just going to post it, and so there's no harm, no foul. So now this one was a little tough because a lot of these are kind of like bumper stickers, basically, like the memes. So you have to kind of like visualize it. So this is a good one. So all this is a picture of Maxine Walters, and it just says a title. What it says, James Brown. Okay, that's wrong on so many levels. There's another one after the bombing. Now, mind you, this is literally after all the bombs, the mail bombs that were sent out. Look, they're sending themselves pipe bombs now. It's basically completely just almost making a joke like it's all fake. This is my personal favorite. Kamala Harris is such an ignorant bitch. I am embarrassed that my fellow Americans voted her in office in California. Those people must have smoked themselves fucking stupid.
Wow.
So, this is interesting, right?
Wow.
So now this is another one. I'm gonna do one more. Okay, of this category. Okay. Now this one is what I call the low information poster / conspiracy theory. So it's like they don't really know too much about something, but they intertwine a conspiracy theory in there. So this one is let's see here. Medicare for all means you and I pay for it all. That isn't savings. That's a massive spending increase to the tune of $32 trillion over 10 years. Already debunked when Comrade Bernie was spreading the same Skittles and Rainbows BS previously. I like Skittles. I don't know why they're trashing. I mean, I find them delectful. But anyhow, it's about creating dependency on government for control and nothing to do with actually helping people. #walk away. And then here's another kind of interesting one. It was pictures of, when the mail bombing went out. It was just pictures of the letters, and I guess they didn't have like the return things on it. And it just says stamps aren't canceled, so it wasn't mailed. Yeah. And so this is the last one. And this is the one that these are the ones that people tell you not to read, and you kind of know what you're about to read when you open it up. You go into the comment section of some websites. I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to give them any press because they already get enough. Let's be honest. Plus, I don't want to sick their people on us. But we do have a veteran with us. So I think we have the Army kind of protecting us today. So, but maybe I'm way unfair.
It's okay. I get you covered. We say I got your
appreciate
six.
That. So all right. So I went into what I wanted to pick two very strong ones. 'Cause I think the juxtaposition of what the topic is about and then what the comments are, and it really shows where we're at as a country and why we can't get anything done. So I call this one Fear and Loathing in the comment section. So listen,
yeah.
So this one, so the title of the article was "The 11th Child Dies as New Jersey Struggles with the Adenovirus Outbreak." And so one of the very first comments actually was, "Libtards are dirty creatures!" ! They are infecting everything they come into contact with. And then last one. Some California wildfire victims may never be found. And so I did two on this one. So the first one, so now the funny thing is these are in I think they technically were in response to each other. So I'm not sure if I get the order right, but I think I'm going to get it. Let's see here. Die, you communist California scum. America doesn't want you or need you, you destructive pieces of shit. And the response to that was, die, old white Republicans. California doesn't want you losers. Do everyone a favor and kill yourself. So now, this is where I think is a good time to bring in Ron. Ron, the opinionated veteran. Obviously, you're there because you've been
Yes,
talking.
sir.
So now,
I am here.
So now, Ron, I want you to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself to give everyone an idea of why we even have you on the show. This is like a trial, like a court per se. Of you're a witness and you're like a technical expert witness, and you're explaining why you have validity and talking about the subject. So explain a little about your background, who you are, what you do, why you're so awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm
go.
glad to be hanging out in the gray with you guys. This is an awesome awesome show we got going on here tonight. But yeah, I was in the Army for 28 years. Retired in 2013. But kind of had a special job when I was in the Army. I was a special agent for the Department of the Army. Had some pretty unique assignments. But one of the things I was very good at was what I term shaping the information space. Some people call it psyops. Some people call it other things, but I was pretty good at helping people change their viewpoints. Some of that I did undercover. Some of it I did, just overtly. But how that translated into what I'm doing now is I was a political consultant for 4 years. Worked on a number of campaigns, both at the state and federal level. And we used a lot of the things we're going to talk about today in helping get voters. And, the reality is, and you and I have talked about this before, liberals and conservatives think differently. And we all know it. All political campaign managers know it and consultants know it. and we use that to ours and a candidate's advantage. We also analyze colors too.
So I'm going to bring. So that's an
it.
excellent point. So I sent this to Ron this weekend because Ron and I are co-hosts of the Max Miller Show, and sometimes I like to troll them with information, just to screw with them before we go on the air. But there was one in particular that it was interesting, but I'm not gonna lie, it's purposely sent it because I thought Ron would think it'd be hilarious. So they call it the hypersensitivity to threat research, and Ron is nailing it right here. Now, Ron, mind you. Is it a secret that you tend to be more on the conservative, side of the spectrum, Ron?
No, I mean, I'm fiscally conservative and socially liberal. I'm an independent. I vote issues that are important to me and my family. I don't go to a voting booth and just vote party line. Hell be damned.
But so this is interesting. So
that's great. I love hearing that.
Ron is up. That's why Ron is the man. That's why that's why Ron's on the show. That's why we're on the Max Miller Show. That's why Ron is doing an awesome job. Ron's just started his podcast as well. So we'll get into that. So you can plug that there a little bit later. But so there's a study. So in 2008 study, the journal Science found that conservatives, people who have a conservative belief, have a stronger physiological reaction to startling noises and graphic images compared to liberals. And then so they validated that study in 2014 with functional MRI, literally triggering those fear responses. And in that response difference is so strong that they did an experiment in 2014 where it was a blind study where you didn't really know who was a Democrat, Republican, or liberal or conservative, and just based upon the MRI images and what areas of the brain activated, they could tell who was a conservative and who was a liberal. So there very much is black and white data. That's the reason why. And Ron, I don't know if you knew this, because I love social psychology, and literally the very first day of social psych class in grad school, it wasn't a coincidence that we went over every single major learning theory, personality theory, perception theory that's related to politics and media. And I almost went into an area that's called human factors, where basically people like me go into the private sector, whether it be politics, advertising, and using what we've learned about people to help them, and using it technically, well, I don't know if necessarily against them. I don't know if people really want to necessarily say that, but instead of using it to help them, they're using it to help themselves and sell a product or get people elected. So there's some very legitimate stuff here. Now, Ron, maybe for people who don't really understand, can you explain psychological operations in the military and how it's used and why they use it?
Why they use that? I lost you there for a second.
Oh yeah. Why do they use psychological?
Well, the specialty is called neuropolitics, and while I've never used a neuropolitical consultant, and there are specials, it's all about getting your candidate elected, because that's your number one job. I mean, that's the simplest form, is getting your candidate elected. And if we have to use, if I'm advising a conservative on how to run for office, then I know fear will generate votes from conservatives. Now, I would alter my plan and approach if, for example, my candidate may be more moderate, where we're looking for a moderate vote as opposed to a conservative vote. But that's how it all plays. At the bottom line is, it's all about getting the candidate elected, period. Doesn't matter whether you're on the left or you're on the right, in the simplest form.
Now, here's the question I kind of have. What are some of the things that they do? You mentioned like color. Can you explain to the audience some of the things that they're doing? And if you really could, also then relate that to maybe help people understand the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal with Facebook and how all that's interrelated.
Hey, Mike, sorry I'm back. Can you go ahead and ask the question again?
Absolutely, yeah. So when you look at psychological operations and we look at political campaigns, Can you explain to people what they actually do? Like, what are some of the tools that they're using? And if you also could then comment how that relates into the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about changing people's thought process and perspectives to, back then we used the term hearts and minds. We want to gain people's hearts and minds. Before we go in and do something in a village, we want to engage in a campaign, and some of that might just be through advertising. Some of that might be through radio shows. Some of that might be through mail that we send to you, and we're shaping the information. So we're either trying to make the candidate look good or the other candidate look bad. When in Iraq and Afghanistan, we would use leaflet drops and big, huge, speakers to send messages in their language. But it's all about, again, shaping the information space, making your candidate look good, the opposing candidate look bad, and getting somebody to change their mind is the basic crux of it. And that's what Cambridge Analytica did. I mean, everything we do these days is online. We had a conversation on Max Miller's show about using Alexa. And, we've given away our privacy so much that everything we do from the time we get up to the time we go to bed is recorded somewhere, whether it's your cell phone and your GPS or logging into a computer or using voice-activated things. Everything is recorded and captured. And Cambridge Analytica, when they got all of that data, was able to data mine it and get people's get inside people's minds and help candidates shape that information that they need to get their candidate elected.
And what the interesting thing is with Cambridge Analytica, it wasn't about that being illegal, them doing that. The only thing technically they got in trouble for is that they never asked anybody permission to access the data. They just took the data and just rolled with it. I know Facebook basically said, well, we didn't know our data was being used for that. And it's like, well, no, internally, I think everything is coming out going, no, you guys pretty much knew about it. You just didn't really say anything, and you made a lot of money basically off of it. Now, I want to go to Dom on this.
Well, the reality is, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ron.
No, what are you going to say?
I was going to say, and the reality is that there is no such thing as privacy anymore. And the law that protects us was actually from 1974. If you think about it, we've all signed the Privacy Act of 74 at some point in time doing something. And back in 74, computers were the size of bedrooms, and the law just has not kept up to keep our information private in today's day and age. And we talked a little bit on the show last Sunday, but it was also one of the primary legislations my last congressional candidate had in hand when we were trying to get him elected was we're going to update the Privacy Act of 74 to protect our information in a digital age. I mean, all you have to do is look at all the break-ins, data break-ins that we've had. Heck, even my security clearance file is on hand in China because they broke into the Office of Personnel Management and stole 38 million security clearance files. It's just crazy.
Wait a minute. So your files, all the files are broken into here, and so they have to store them in China to keep them safe? That's just. I'm sorry.
No,
that's just ridiculous.
Broke into OPM.
I mean, So Dom, the everyman.
Oh yeah, no.
So I'm
the
curious.
Office of Personnel Management. Go ahead.
Well, I was real curious, to get Dom your input. So you're hanging back and listening to this, and I know you've always had some really strong opinions on Facebook and everything. So when you're hearing, because Ron and I know all this stuff. I mean, this is stuff that him and we've known for years. So as you're sitting back here and listening to us almost nonchalantly talk about it, what goes to your mind to hear about all these things that they're doing?
Well, while we were doing that, I realized I forgot to turn off the location on my phone, so I definitely did that. Let's be honest here. We as a society, we all know that those things happen. We just choose to pretend they don't because it's easier that way. If you're on Facebook, they're watching you. If you're on your Google, your Google Maps and navigation, they know you're, let's be honest. They're watching everything we do, whether we like it or not, right? But we choose to behave in these ways anyway, regardless.
And that's the thing, I think, and you're absolutely right. I think for so long we've been so complacent, and even myself. I mean, it's so easy to get complacent when, we know they're doing it. And hell, I mean, there were conversations. Remember, over Christmas, it was a couple years ago, we were talking about getting Eleanor, my daughter, a present, and we're talking about, oh, stuffed animals, and then literally, like, what was it, like 5 minutes later on Facebook, a silly Tilly stuffed animal popped up. You're like, well, yeah, that's creepy, but damned if that is not convenient.
And I mean, I use it on both ends. I mean, as a business owner, I use Google Analytics to find my customers and market to them. But as a consumer, I'm also on the other side where businesses are using those same analytics and that same information to then target me. So, from my standpoint, it's happening regardless. So as long as here's my honest opinion. If you're a law-abiding citizen of the United States of America and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, does it really matter?
That is a
does
very
it really
good
matter?
Question. Because you're using it as a business owner, using analytics to help me get my business. I'm not doing anything shady. But then, but look at them. And Ron, you brought up a good point of, in the 70s, we had the Federal Communications Act with privacy. It was in the late 60s where they started passing legislation. The government said you can't use subliminal advertising. So for a long time, the government was there to draw a red line of, no, we don't do these things. And frankly, if you really look at subliminal advertising from 1960 to really mid-2000s, you didn't really have a need to have anything else basically on the books to protect people. But when you look at the data that is at people's hands, I mean, if you look at it as a business owner, you look at data really as what you can afford, and you look at the data that you have to target people, it's pretty fascinating. But then the question we have to ask yourself, it is, and the thing is, but think about it though, Ron, you guys, everything is about justifying behavior, right? So when the Army uses psychological operations, it's about, listen, there's some bad people basically running in the government. We're trying to massage people's reality and their thoughts basically and emotions. So maybe they vote for the person that's actually going to be better for them. But in the same breath, it's maybe going to be a little more, I don't know, friendly to the United States and maybe some of our concerns and in the area. Is that fair to say, Ron?
Okay. Mike, my apologies, but I've got a family emergency and I'm going to have to sign off, and I'll catch up with you guys later.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, absolutely. Well, good luck, man. We'll catch up later.
No problem.
I'm sorry. Have a good show.
Thanks, Ron.
Buddy. So now, here's the deal, though. So, and I'm going to pick up here because these are all things I know. So this is what psychological operations basically kind of does. And when we look at psychological operations and what they do, there's always a justification for why it is okay. And so the dangerous thing that we run into is, how do we define what is okay? Dom, when you pick the data and analytics that you use for your business, what is your criteria that you use?
As far as the moral compass piece of it?
What do you use?
Well, it's certainly going to be, information that is readily available. I'm not breaking any laws to capture data. I'm certainly not going down any of those wormholes that are, I'm sure, certainly available to those who choose to use them. The data that I would be using would be that data that is simply public data that anybody who is existing in the digital world these days, knowingly doing so, they have to assume that their habits, their conversations, the places they're going, the things they check into, pictures they may be tagged in, comments they put on their Twitter account, all their Google searches. I mean, that's what I said. If somebody's truly involved in the everyday life of what our society has become, they're kidding themselves if they think that isn't captured information. And so all I'm simply doing as a business owner is taking that information signature of a certain person and saying, hey, you might like my service based on what your digital footprint is. And I hope you do, because I feel like I'm targeting somebody that actually might want this. Plain and simple.
And that's, you have an internal compass. You're a moral kind of guy that you're not going to way overstep your boundaries. And one of the things Ron was going to be talking about was that when people in elections, they have a different moral compass. It is very Machiavellian. It very much is the ends justify the means. And when this data started becoming very widely available, and when they started adopting, think about it, the campaigns were purposely seeking out a military guy who specialized in psychological operations, massaging the imagination.
Shaping the information space. I love it. I wrote it down.
Shaping the information space, right? And so think about it. They hired someone on a mass level. How do we manipulate emotion? How do we manipulate their perception of reality in order to get them to vote for somebody we want them to vote for?
Which is a totally different way to use that information.
Exactly. Because remember, PSYOPs is, it's for the people, but make no mistake, it's about the United States. It's about what's in our best interest. That's the justification. I'm not going to say what I interviewed for. We'll just say that in my college, grad, days, maybe there were certain entities within the government that I did speak with. And one of the questions that they asked me was, basically how they were looking for me. Did I have a flexible moral compass? Meaning, did I have the ability to maybe do something bad that maybe typically in one environment would be bad, but can I justify why it's for the greater good of the country, even if something bad has to happen to somebody else? That's what they were looking for. I didn't feel comfortable with that. It seemed kind of cool, I'm not going to lie, but I felt very uncomfortable with that.
And that's been the underlying theme of several of our shows, just that very mindset of, where is your moral compass, and how do people make decisions based on what's good for the greater whole if there's a small sacrifice, going back to our episode 2 weeks ago, discussing false flag theories and things of that nature. So,
And so that's where it went from the fringe, and then all of a sudden you started seeing this infiltration of this type of thinking into the mainstream. And then coincidentally, on Facebook, think about the conversations. I got it right here, paper. I'm looking at it. Think about the conversations that people started having, how they started discrediting fact. Don't look at this, look at that. No, that is BS. No, we're only going to look at something from one perspective. The use of fear, the use of, name calling. Literally, it's everywhere. And then think about it. What you and I are talking about, well, we just kind of allowed it to happen because there wasn't any really, big negative consequences. But think about it. Think about the first show. I don't know if you've listened to our very first show. One of the things we talked about was people that have been friends for 20 years, 30 years, don't talk anymore. Families. We have Thanksgiving coming up here in a few days. And literally, there's families that cannot talk to each other. They're not going to spend Thanksgiving with each other because of their political beliefs. We have people getting fired from their jobs for what they're posting on Facebook. We have this vitriol that we see on Facebook. In my office, literally, we have people coming in angry, upset, anxious, angry, but people borderline being hospitalized, people being scared. It's like this quickening. It's this, and I was screaming it from the rooftops that this was happening. And I kept saying, I'm worried that there's going to be shootings. There's going to be these things. People are going to start taking action. And then what have we had? We've had the mail bombings. We had the synagogue shootings. We've had, the Charleston riots. Every which way you look, it almost like we're in the 1960s again. And it's the hippies fighting against the government, riots everywhere. Am I wrong, Dom? It's just because my sample size being a clinician and being a little jaded, a little cynical, that things are not good. From your perch, from your perspective, is that just me, or is it really that bad and getting worse?
I think it's getting worse with each passing day, whether we want it to or not, right?
And that's the thing.
You can't turn on the television. You can't open your computer. You can't even exist on a daily basis without somebody or something trying to create more alienation, that's, then that's already there, right? Depending what media you choose and, what you're filtering into your consciousness. But I mean, unless you're like you and I in the gray, where we listen to both sides, generally these echo chambers are just getting larger every single day. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's insane. and think about what Ron is basically going. Think about it. The tactics that campaigns are using mirror and mimic psychological operations that we use abroad. And then not only that, we have both sides playing it. We have one side coming out, basically stoking the flames of name calling, rebel rousing, saying, I mean, literally, we're not talking just like, well, you got to get out there and vote. We're talking like, no, this person's going to if this person does this, you're going to die. They're going to take away your vote. They're going to be a communist. I mean, literally, now we're the very basic institutions of our voting, where you have politicians come out saying there's fraud, but without producing any evidence. And then mysteriously you go on Facebook, and that's what people are mirroring. You try arguing, or not even arguing, you try having a discussion about it, and there's no fact. Everything we see in Facebook, everything we see in the comment section is just dehumanizing. The emotions, the same wording, the same language. It is so symbiotic. And we have to ask ourselves as Americans, and I think I think some of it are to blame. I think, Dom, you said it beautifully. We've allowed it to happen. We just didn't care. But now all of a sudden, like a frog in boiling water, now we're seeing some very big negative effects. I'm not even going to get into the show, or get into on this show, about substance abuse and why I think the substance abuse problem is so bad. I think it's all directly related. When you're a kid and you look at the world for how it is, and we wonder why we have a whole generation of kids that are using drugs, don't want to feel, that are hopeless, angry, think it's all BS. Failure to launch, don't even want to go into the system. How do we not think there's a direct correlation? And we have media, we have politicians using tactics they use in the military against foreign powers. And we have to ask ourselves, have they gone too far?
Well, hell yeah, they have, Mike.
Exactly.
I'll just come right out and say it. Hell yeah, they have. It's a problem when people who are friends, if they're on opposite sides of the coin, shall you say, can't even have discourse anymore. You can't even talk because of, they've done such a great job of alienating people that there is no discussion anymore, because that other person is wrong right off the rip, no matter what. Case closed. Thanks. See you. Bye. Call me tomorrow. I mean, it's just not happening.
And so I think you have to sit there and go, okay, enough is enough. I mean, how many friendships, how many shootings, how far do we have to go before is enough? Because obviously they are making a very concerted decision to go, you know what? Yeah, we know it's probably having this effect. They know it is. I mean, they're even coming out and starting to talk about it. It ain't my fault, though. That's the new one. It ain't my fault. Yeah, it's going on. You guys got to watch yourselves, but it ain't me. You have the politicians pointing to the media pointing to the politicians. They're all at blame. They're all using each other. But then where are we as people?
We're just the sheeple in the middle.
I was literally just about to say that. The sheeple.
We're just the sheeple that they try to sell us this line of bullshit, and unfortunately are doing a pretty good job at it.
Yeah, and
that's the sad part. I mean, we're all Americans when it comes down to it, right? I mean, last I checked, it's red, white, and blue. There is a white, not just red and blue. So, we're in the gray, so I don't know where that leaves us.
I mean, I think that's why we're having this conversation, because it's not about Republican or Democrat. I don't think one time you heard here, this is a Democrat issue, this is a Republican issue. I don't think we've even said the name of anybody. It's a system issue. And I'm telling you, as a clinician, we have, Ron, who's basically saying, no, they're using all these tactics. I know it because I was hired to do it, and I did it. I have me as a clinician going, I'm seeing this every day in my office. All anyone has to do is go on Facebook and read the crap that people are saying to themselves. All we have to do is turn on the news and see the negative consequences of all this crap. And I for one, am sick of it. I'm sick of getting kids in my office and having to basically. I look at sometimes I feel like my job is like sending a soldier into war and treating him for PTSD while literally they're still fighting the battle. It's like they take a 5-minute break, come into my office, and then I send them back with emotional Kevlar and they go right back into the fight. I'm sick of seeing the drug problem. This is what kids are telling us, but no one wants to listen. Clinicians, this is what we're saying. No one wants to listen. Regular folk, this is what we're saying. No one wants to listen. How many people have to die? How many people's lives have to be destroyed by all this stuff? Enough is enough. We can't ignore this anymore. The writing is on the wall. And if we allow it to happen, every single one of us is culpable for this. We have the power to go, no. We are not going to stand up for politics like this. We are not going to stand for this. That's the biggest offense that we have, or the best defense we have against this, if we know they are doing it. This stuff only works if we don't know that they are doing it. It's simple as that. It has to be a secret. It has to be almost subconscious. That's how the human brain works. You know how I know? Because that's what they taught us to do. That's what the gray is about. That's just what this show is about, for people to start opening up their eyes and seeing the world for what it really is. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just presenting the evidence to you. I'm throwing out there incredible ways of looking at it. Not Democrat, not Republican, just life, reality. We have to do something about this. And it starts here. It starts with these discussions. Everybody has to go home, look at themselves in the mirror, look at these politicians, look at what the news and the radio that they listen to, and go, am I going to support that anymore? Because if I watch it, I listen to it, I'm supporting it. If I don't listen, if I don't vote, I don't support, and instead I support media people that are trying to talk to me and not use these tactics. And we're laying it out here for you. You'll know what they look like. Are we teaching you to think for yourself and not telling you what to think? Are we being very clear with, hey, there's a lot of different ways of looking at it? Are we simply just using a mirror and reflecting back what we already know? Those are the people you want to listen to. How about the politicians? What if they actually talk about the actual issues? Not in a BS, surface way, only get you to talk about it in one way. No. Are they actually talking about it in a way to get you to understand it? Do you actually disagree with some of the things that they say? Yeah. Those are the people you need to be supporting. And if we support people like that, if we support media personalities like that, then all of a sudden the power that they have, it doesn't work anymore. And then all of a sudden we get people in us that are actually there for the right reasons.
Your dad, when we had the professor on a couple of weeks ago, he was talking about there's a political revolution happening, and we're starting to see it. You know, that's what excites me, is that maybe there are going to start being some, you know, younger politicians coming to the table that haven't been, you know, living in the swamp for the past 50 years. Maybe we are going to get some new, you know, faces in the media, and faces that have a voice that are going to be in pursuit of the truth, shall we say. You know, and it's up to us as, you know, as the United States of America, to seek these kinds of people, find these people, and like you said, boycott the rest. If it's bullshit coming out of their mouth, I don't want to hear it.
No, and it's so well said. And you're right. And I'm hopeful, but I'm cynical. I mean, I want to believe that you know, my dad was right, that, and that you guys are right, that people are finally waking up, and I'm hoping that when you look at the biggest podcast right now, like NPR radio, you know, podcast, rather than just kind of, you know, whatever BS news from the big major networks, so maybe people are thinking. And then, to me, the telltale sign will be in the next election. Because, you gotta look at these people, these politicians and media, they're so calculating. They have this data. They know what we're thinking. They know what works. They listen to our conversations. They can read the tone of those conversations. They will latch onto it and only use things that they know for a fact are going to work. So to me, that's where we find out. But anybody who is listening to this show today cannot walk away being totally ignorant to the fact of what they're doing. The fact they've gone way too far. It's for their own gain. And if you really think about it, it's sociopathic that to get elected, they're willing to let the country tear itself apart. And for what?
Power.
Yeah.
Well, Counselor Mike, I am back, and I apologize for that embarrassing.
He is back, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, how's everything?
Yeah.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, I'm on my ranch, and my daughter came in. My wife took a spill, putting the animals away, and we'll see. Her wrists are pretty banged up, and her left side's pretty banged up. But we got her resting and iced up, and we'll see how things go. But I apologize about that.
Man, I was thinking the feds showed up and shut you down.
Yeah, I don't know. When my 17-year-old daughter comes in and just says, "Get offline, mommy's hurt," I'm like, I gotta go.
Well, I'm thinking it's almost like the high energy weapon conspiracy theories I've been hearing about with the California fires, that they heard us talking, they didn't want it, and then mysteriously a pulse beam of energy, your cell phone signal was messed up, and she took a spill.
That's right.
I don't know. Maybe just a little.
Right.
No, but
Well, I'll start a rumor that the CIA shut me down or something.
I honestly, I think so. That would make much better radio. But we're glad to get you back on, and hope she's doing all right, and appreciate her letting you come back on the air and going, hey, go back out there and talk about this. So she said get back on air, and I'm like, so anyway, here I am. But I kind of chimed in on the last few seconds. We were talking earlier about the difference between the way conservatives and liberals think. And, the bottom line is it's on a subconscious or an unconscious level. So they don't even realize that they're doing it. And people exploit that to their advantage, whether it's stuff that I'm doing for political campaigns or stuff I used to do in the military. And that's the thing we're just making the point about, is that, I was trying to get everyone to understand, is that if you're listening to this show, the one power that we have is, now, this stuff doesn't work if you know that they're doing it. That's the one catch there is to it. And there was one question, because I know we are going to slowly wrap up here in the next 8-10 minutes here. I would love to know, because you were in those conversations, and I have a theory, and I'm curious for you to reality test this, because you were in those rooms, that it's like they know what they're doing. They know the effects that it's having, especially with all the stuff we're seeing in the news with the mail bombers and all the crap we see on Facebook. Is it that do they know what they're doing and just don't care because it's effective? Are they lying to themselves, trying to ignore and just say it's somebody else's fault? What do they, I think America deserves to know if they are doing this stuff on purpose and don't care.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're doing it on purpose. Because we talk about this in political consultant circles as to, well, why do we use certain colors? Why do we use certain messages? And why does it work? Whether we don't care, I cared. I tried to run very ethical campaigns. I tried to keep messaging on target and as positive as possible. But, I shared a story with you once where an incumbent campaign manager came up to me, kind of didn't grab me on the elbow or arm, but, just kind of touched me to get my attention and said, hey, we can go dirty anytime you want. So you've got some people that are just used to working in the gutters and they don't care what's going on. Others do. As for the ramifications, I don't think I don't think people realize how they're being affected because they don't realize their unconscious actions. So I'm not even sure they're aware of, whether they're being harmed or manipulated. And I think you were talking a little bit about the news, if I chimed in just right. I hate the term fake news because that's for political intent. That's his message to gin up his base, which he's very, very good at. But news certainly is partisan and biased. In fact, it was, I think, Chuck Grassley went even on air and said, hey, there's people outside my chamber protesting Kavanaugh, but you're not also interviewing the people that are supporting Kavanaugh that are also outside my chamber. So the news will select, a storyline and go with it. I've even been a victim of quote unquote fake news here in Texas, trying to get, candidates into the news. I've had stories literally written and then pulled because we did not run advertisement in a newspaper. We've had a Texas newspaper tell me and my candidate, the editorial board, that since you're running against so-and-so, and I'll leave their name out of it, there's no way you'll get print in our newspaper because you're running against an incumbent. So it's selective, kind of news gerrymandering, so to speak.
What's interesting to me is that, and I would love to get your thoughts. I think I tweeted this one at you earlier in the week, where we now have multiple generals, retired generals, coming out and going, I think this is detrimental to the United States. We had the general who left Fox News early in the year, basically saying that I think he actually called Fox News the propaganda arm of the Trump administration and said that he thought it was doing damage to the country. And just the other day, we had another retired colonel, or was a retired general, who basically came out and said, it was a guy who actually, I'm not sure what his name is, he was the architect of the bin Laden raid, basically said that it was retired Admiral William McRaven, basically saying the same thing, that the greatest threat to democracy is basically people coming out and calling the news the enemy of the state. And so as a veteran, do you think now our generals, because I think they always got our back, regardless, and that's the thing I love about the military members, that you talk with any high-ranking officer, retired or current, even old veterans, the one thing they're always going to say is they always have America's back. Even if we're doing some shady things, it is still always about America and what is best for us. And so
it's all about service to country. Politics be damned. It's all about service to country.
And do you think our generals are trying to tell us something? Do you think as Don was saying, this election is about people thinking? This is almost like a little bit of a mini revolution, not Democrat or Republican. Now we have generals coming out. Is that them even trying to go, listen, we need to wake up, people?
Yeah, I think so. It's really, I don't want to say unprecedented, but it is certainly unusual that general officers will dive into the political fray. It is something we're just kind of ingrained not to do throughout our military careers, and we carry that over into our retirement only because, we're still out there consulting, we're still out there doing things, we're still out there, championing veterans issues and not-for-profits. So for general officers and senior military leaders to come out and talk like that certainly is a call for concern. I think calling fake news is detrimental. I think changing it to what it is, calling it out when it is biased and when it is partisan is different. But I think also news protection under the freedom of speech, the First Amendment, they should hold that to a high standard. So I think just as much as calling them fake news and doing what they've been doing, especially Trump, I think it's equally damaging to our country when news is not unbiased and nonpartisan.
Yeah, and that's where, and I think it's kind of like our generals are stepping up, and then maybe they need to get a little more vocal. I think now we need these politicians now to follow through. And that was one of the things I think right before you got back on with this, I was saying our power that we have is the only way this stuff works if, one, we don't know what's happening, but two, they are so in tune with who we are, what we do, how we do it, and how they can use that to get elected. If we don't vote for them, we don't listen
absolutely.
to them. We choose media sources that are about, no, let's talk about issues from the middle. Let's have differing viewpoints. We can make it entertaining and fun. That's the power of it. And this next election is going to be, to me, the real sign, as Dom and my dad basically said, the revolution of people thinking now. And it's going to be real fascinating. And I think I want to be optimistic I really do. I really want to be optimistic here, but we will surely find out. Now, I want to kind of wrap things up here a little bit because we try to keep things here nice and tight. Ron, I would like to say any last words, and I also want you to plug your show, and where people can find you, what you would like them to know about you, and then Dom, I want you to have your last little word too as well.
Starting my blog back up, and I'm getting into podcasting. It's called The Opinionated Veteran, and what I'm trying to do is we're trying to vet issues one opinion at a time. So let's take an issue, and I think my first blog, which will be out tomorrow, is going to be on the military deployment to the border. Is it political or is it other? And so stay tuned, but you can check me out at theopinionatedveteran.com.
Please tell me you're going to have interviews with soldiers that are actually talking about their viewpoints of the deployment.
I have some input, but I also know some of the senior leaders that are down there, and I'll share some of my because
that's going to be a good show.
It's a humanitarian issue. And you gotta log in or sign up or read tomorrow to get more of that. How's that?
Well, Ron, you just got me to listen tomorrow, buddy. I'm intrigued.
And I love it. And that's remember what this everything we're all doing. The Gray Matters. The Opinionated Veteran, Max Miller. We're all we're all trying to do something about getting people to think. Even at the other shows on our network, Dudes and Beer, even though it's about conspiracy theories, it's about let's look at conspiracy theories through a normal scientific perspective and think of alternative viewpoints to things. It's not about going one way or the other. And that's what's amazing is that you listen to one show and then you listen to guests that show up on those shows. Look at the networks that they're on. Those are the shows where if you're hearing what we're saying and you dig what we're going, those are the shows that you got to pick up on. And so, Ron, I am super stoked to listen to yours because I think I'm really, really eager to find out what our soldiers are really thinking about this deployment. And it's what they think. Not what the media is saying that they think, not some random politician or think tank. Soldier X, Colonel Y.
Exactly.
I cannot wait to hear that. So, Dom, any final last words on your end? Just hearing the craziness that we're talking about tonight.
Just like I challenge people every week, get out of their echo chambers. Watch all the news networks for your news in the same day, and then make your own educated opinion on what you think is the truest version of the news. I'm not going to say fake news, but based on all the little facts that may be in each network's broadcast that don't get skewed one way or the other, use that for your foundation of opinion. How about that?
I love it. Good parting words. You always have such good parting words, Nom. I never feel like I can top it. But
I guess that's why I get paid the big bucks, huh, Mike?
But we need those voices. For far too long, we've been listening to people telling us what to think. We thought we could trust them. They almost did our thinking for us. We didn't want to think. We didn't want to look at those things because it was easy. We trusted them. But what we're finding out tonight is that we can't. It's for their own interest, their own ratings, their own votes. So we have to listen to regular people again. That's all we are here, regular people. Maybe we have a viewpoint, maybe we have an expertise, but we're doing it for the right reasons. Every single one of us, all the projects we are involved with, we're all doing it for the right reasons. And you don't have to take our word for it. Just listen to what we say. Think about what Ron talked to us about tonight and what to look out for. Think about how we are talking about it. That's the evidence. That's the proof right there. It's not too late. We can overcome these things. Even I'm going to be jaded about it. Even I shouldn't be jaded. I'm a counselor. I should be optimistic. But okay, I'm going to trust that we're going to continue to have these conversations. Other people are going to have these conversations. I encourage everyone to talk about, the show tonight. Go and talk to other people about it. Go, hey, listen to these guys. They're bringing up some damn good points. Go to our website, graymattersradio.com. Go to our Facebook page and get involved in the debate. Go on our Twitter. You'll see the articles that we're posting. You'll see it's about every different viewpoint of things. And challenge us. If you didn't like something that we said, email us. Give us a viewpoint of something. If you think we missed something, great. If you think there's another guest we need to have on another side of the story, great, awesome. I love it. I challenge everyone. I want this show to be about that. And so I'm excited. I think we're all doing some great things, and I'm excited.
Pleasure to be.
And I was just gonna say, I want to thank my guest Ron, for rocking it out and coming back on, just like the soldier that he is. God, that's awesome. Honey, I will be back.
All about the mission.
You tell her we thank you for her service in addition to yours, man. And everyone tune in to Ron's show, Ron, the opinionated veteran. And on that note, I thank everyone for joining us once again, taking time out of their busy schedule. And remember, not red, not blue. Keep it in the gray. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Gray Matters Radio with Michael Devine. For more episodes and information, visit us online at graymattersradio.com. Join the conversation by following Gray Matters Radio on Facebook and Twitter. Gray Matters Radio is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more live episodes of this and other great shows, download the free HC Universal Network app at hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, remember, think about the gray.